Hey, it's Ken Pecoraro here with another episode of the CPC Speaks podcast, and I'm here with Melissa Mackolin, and she's got a really interesting story. And why don't you introduce yourself, Melissa?
Hi everybody, my name is Melissa Mackolin, and I am a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I have not had a drink or a drug in almost 4 years. So I have not found any reason, thank God, to pick up anything that will change my mood, my mind, or anything about me in quite some time now. I've known Ken for a really long time, and I'm really grateful to be here and be able to share my experience with everybody. I met Ken 9 years ago when I was a client at CPC.
Wow, it's been that long, huh?
It's been quite some time. And I was 15 years old. I was sent there by my high school. I kept failing drug tests. They had enough of it, and everybody was really worried about me. Unfortunately, at that age, at that time, things hadn't gotten bad enough. I didn't see a reason to stop using. I didn't think my life could end up the way it did end up. And I was not receptive to anything that anyone had to say. I'm sure you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
So, here I am now. I'm 24 years old. Like I said, I've been sober for almost 4 years. On August 8th, which is about a month away, I will have 4 years sober. So,
excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy. Around my anniversary, I get really reflective, so this is actually a perfect time for me to kind of sit here and talk about what happened, because I think about it a lot at this time. It feels like it was a different life for me. It doesn't feel like I am the same person as I was, and that's a really, really cool thing.
Well, you can see the change in you. It's really remarkable.
Thank you. Yeah. I've been able to do some speaking engagements. I spoke at a high school, actually the high school I went to. I was able to be featured in 2 articles in the NJ Journal just to share my experience in recovery. I try really hard to be as honest as I possibly can without scaring people about what it's like to use drugs and to use them to excess.
So you don't have to get into all the gory details, but tell us a little bit about it, what your journey.
So when I was younger, I always felt a little different. I'm not sure what it was. My father passed away when I was young. It was me, my brother, my sister. I'm the oldest, and my mom always did the best she could, and she provided everything for us. And with that being said, I was handed everything growing up. I never had to work for anything. Everything came really easy to me. And I was very smart. I didn't have to study. Things just came easy to me, but I still always had that feeling of not being good enough, not fitting in, just that I wasn't like everybody else. And that I now know was my disease at a really early age telling me that I'm not good enough, because on any given day it can still do that to me, and I picked up for the first time when I was 12 years old. I started drinking. I was at a party with my older cousin. I drank too much. I fell down the stairs. I woke up the next day and I was like, when can we do this again? I felt like I had arrived. That was my moment. That was the cure for everything. I was no longer self-conscious. I no longer felt different. I felt like I fit in just fine, and I was going to find my people that allowed me to fit in with them, that wanted to do the same things that I did.
How did it progress from there?
Yeah, it got worse. It got really, really worse. Eventually, by the time I was 17, I had a needle in my arm. I was an IV heroin user. And multiple overdoses, multiple Narcan reversals, multiple treatment centers. Things got really, really bad and really ugly. And it happened pretty quick. A lot of people are always like, well, how? What happened? Was it a boyfriend? Was it this? Was it that? And I just wasn't scared. I wasn't scared of anything. I didn't think, oh, you're going to die. I remember my mom told me when I was younger that if you sniff 1 line of cocaine, you can die on an instant. And I was like, okay, sounds good, Mom. It's like when she used to tell me that weed could be laced, which I later found out it really could be. And I can laugh about this now. I'm not trying to be morbid or laugh at all of this terrible thing and make it sound like it's not a big deal, because it really was. But like I said, I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm okay with my past, and I'm okay with who I am now, and I'm really excited for my future. So like I said, IV heroin user, very typical story of an IV heroin user. And eventually I ended up in a place where I really had no choice but to get sober. I I was just telling Ken before we started this that I really don't think I would have survived another few months if I continued to use. I really think that my life would have been cut very, very, very short. So,
thank God you made it through.
yeah, seriously, I thank God every day. So I ended up in a treatment center for like my umpteenth time. I didn't want to be there. I didn't have any desire to stop using, but I held on because I knew inside, like, I didn't have much left in me. My body was so worn down. I was like completely emaciated. My hair was really thin. Like, I didn't look healthy. And I knew, like, my body was telling me, like, I either need to take a really long break or I need to stop overall. And I don't know that I chose to stop overall. I don't know that it was an act of God. I don't know exactly what happened. I just know that I held on and I didn't use no matter what. You know, like, it didn't matter what I was feeling. It didn't matter what happened that day. I just knew that using wasn't an option anymore. And then one day I woke up and using didn't want to be an option. Like, I didn't have a desire to make things go away. You know, I had a desire to work through things, to learn how to deal with my feelings, to learn how to change. I got this really weird job at a Greek restaurant serving gyros. I did that for a year. You know, I worked my way up, and eventually I got a job at the treatment center that I got sober at. And I worked there for about a year. I moved forward into a different position, which I'm in now. Currently, I work for a treatment center, Banyan Treatment Center. We've been around for like 7 years. My job is to help people find resources. So I connect the dots for people that are currently using. So every single day, I am on the front lines. Like, I see things every single day. I hear things every single day that bring me back to exactly where I was.
Well, we're here at Banyan now. This is the first time actually visiting the place. It's a very nice place in here. But going back to, you know, so a lot of people are struggling with having a kid that's using, and you were in that situation, and I remember you at that point. What was it like to be a kid in a program like CPC, and you're hearing things from counselors, and you know you don't want to listen or whatever? What would you say to kids in that situation, and what was that like for you?
You know, it was difficult for me because I didn't feel like I was as bad as everybody else. I didn't feel like my problems were going to end up to look like the older people that were in the groups with me, that their lives were like, I was like, whoa, they're a mess. You know, unfortunately, quite a few people that I was in there with passed away. Like, I wish that I could have just sat down and listened and not felt like I knew all the answers, you know. At that stage in my life, and really for quite some time, and even sometimes now, I don't want to do anything unless it's my own idea. You know, a lot of the motivational interviewing that people are using is just so important because it gave me an opportunity to like make a decision for myself. Like, okay, maybe when I got sober, I didn't want to be sober, but I wanted my license back. And in order to get my license back, I had to stay sober. So I set that goal of getting my license back. I set these small goals, and when I was 15, I wanted to graduate high school. You know, all I had to do was stay sober to graduate high school, and unfortunately, that wasn't in my cards. I ended up withdrawing from high school a year later when I was 16, and I have a GED now. You know, and I'm in college to try and regain my education and better my life in that way, but it was a long road, and it was a hard road just because I didn't listen, because nothing seemed like my idea. You know, so I think for parents with kids, it's kind of all about finding the right motivation for them. It's about finding what they actually want. It's kind of sitting down and talking to them and trying to get to the bottom of like what the end goal is for them. Like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do next week? You know, it doesn't always have to be so drastic and such a big decision, but there's some things that, like, if you set your eye on them and you want them, you'll work hard enough to get them.
That's really well stated. That's very consistent with the philosophy we use at CPC, and I use personally. Is, you know, motivation is key, and even just looking at things in terms of baby steps, little by little change. That's how people have to change. So, just to end it on a positive, I mean, too bad this isn't a video, because people could see, you know, you look great, Melissa. It's really, you know, what a counselor, why we do this job is to see people like you have the success that you're having. It's great to know that it's possible, and to see you here working and Now you're helping other people and making differences in other people's lives. It's so encouraging. But what would you say, just as a closing thing, for somebody out there that might be listening in terms of who's struggling or struggling to help somebody else? Like, how would you, what would you say?
You just have to hold on. For people that are struggling, you just have to hold on. For somebody who has 3 days sober, please hold on. For somebody who's in active addiction, reach out. And for the family members, you need to help yourselves. You really need to help yourselves. There was a point in my addiction where my mom would have loved me right to death. But eventually, she shaped up. She figured out what she needs to do for her to keep herself healthy and to still take care of my brother and sister and not let them be the abandoned children because of me. And she started saying no. No, right. I'm sorry, you can't come home. No, I'm sorry, I'm not buying you a plane ticket to get back here. No, I'm not giving you any more money. And those things pushed me to my bottom much faster because I didn't have a crutch. I didn't have anything to rely on. Like I said, when I got sober, there was nobody. My mom dropped me off at treatment, told me to call her in 6 months. My grandparents wouldn't come see me, and I'm so close with them. For Christmas this year, my grandpa got me a necklace with Roman numerals and my sobriety date. And he cried giving it to me because that's how important my sobriety is to my family. And if and when your child, your loved one gets sober, hold on to them, cherish it. Don't overcrowd them and let them figure it out because a lot of times we really do. We really, really do. As long as we have the right resources, the right tools, the right treatment, the right self-help groups, whatever it is that helps somebody, if it's 12-step, if it's Suboxone maintenance, if it's any type of MAT, whatever it is that helps somebody, let it help them, and you have to keep helping yourself.
That's great. And it's nice that you say your family set those boundaries, but in the end, they loved you and they stayed with you. So, and it really paid off, Melissa. It's so great to see it. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You're encouraging a lot of people.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.